man without a mission is a man without balls, by the way. Okay. And same thing, same thing for a woman. It's mental balls. If you don't have a mission, you don't have any balls. And I can feel it. You're going to be a low frequency person.
Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aaron. I love talking to a fellow pro or former pro guy. Athletics, it's life. It's life with the volume turned up.
Yeah, I mean, sports have absolutely fundamentally changed my life, and probably outside of my parents have made me the person that I am today. And I know you have a great relationship with your dad and sports and all these sorts of things. So we have a lot of things in common, Michael. So I'm excited to chat with you. But first and most important question is, how are you doing? Like, actually, for real, how are you doing?
I'm doing tremendous. My goal for the last decade as a husband, a father, and as a entrepreneur has been personal sovereignty. I mean, when I was younger, I used to chase money. I used to chase success. I always thought that, achieving the next thing would fulfill me. And over the last decade, I've been like, okay, for me, it's about personal sovereignty. It's about legacy. I've been a man on a mission to serve other people for 10 years. Ever since it became about something larger than myself, I ended up being a better husband, a better father, and a better leader. So coming up here onto another calendar year, we're very blessed. As I said the other day to my wife and my daughter, every day is Thanksgiving for us. It's just, we've got to have that attitude of gratitude. And my dad's 91 years old. He was an entrepreneur, Aaron, until he was 85. And he said to me the other day, he said, the best is yet to come, son. He said, you're living. He goes, I hope you're taking advantage of this. He says, we're living in the greatest time in history. You're awash in wealth, abundance, and opportunity. And like Coach Jim Harbaugh says to his players every day, who has it better than us? The reality is nobody.
Yeah. Do you think about personal sovereignty as the same as freedom, or are those two things different, and maybe can explain that?
I used to say freedom, and then I used to say control, and then I used to say independence, and then my big word for a while was autonomy. And none of it really, to me, it was live life and do business on your own terms, which is different for every person. Some people want to work 60 hours a week. Some people want to travel. Some people don't want to do any of that. So I stumbled upon the two words personal sovereignty. And I think it's more personable that way to every person. And it's exactly what you want to do. And most importantly, when it comes to entrepreneurship, what you don't want to do. And I just find we're living in a world now where people are really focused on people pleasing. And I was saying yes to way too many things when I was first married and as a father. And then I discovered that the secret wasn't saying yes to more things and adding more things to do. As I got wiser, it was about vitamin N, saying no to things. And it's interesting, as the older I've got, the more I've simplified my life. And one of the reasons my family, we're in a great spot is not because we're doing more. It's because we're doing a lot less in these last handful of years. Everything to me now is about simplification. And it was Da Vinci who said the ultimate sophistication is simplicity. And Steve Jobs, that's how he came back and built Apple. And when they fired Jobs, Apple expanded to 44 products and was on bended knee bankruptcy. And then they begged Jobs to come back. And he goes down to the design team on the first day, like any great leader. He says, how many products do you guys have? And they're almost bankrupt. They're on the emergency operating table. And he says, well, we got 44. And he says, well, obviously you haven't been very effective. And he took an axe to that day and got it back to 4 products. So simplicity has been a focus of mine. And I just find that that's really the ticket for me in terms of living a life of personal sovereignty.
Yeah. That reminds me of something that I read that absolutely changed my life. And it was the number one way to improve your life is to stop doing the things that make you feel like shit. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because like you're saying, Everyone always thinks they need to add. I need to do this routine and this routine. I need to do this. But most of the time, it's like you need to remove all of the junk and all of the shit that makes you feel so bad. Then, once you feel like you have a process and routine set up where you're consistent, then you can start adding things that make you just a little bit more exceptional. But if you're not consistent on the path already, there's no chance you're going to be exceptional. Like consistency is the underlying thing. And then you work with someone like you, or you get to a coach or a consultant, and they start to fine tune you to make you exceptional. But the foundation has to be consistency, and you have to be willing to say no to a lot of things like you're saying. But I think nowadays people have trouble with that because they don't have a value system. They don't have first principles like you like to talk about. They don't have a mission. And when you don't have that, then you just believe in anything and you'll do anything and you'll say yes to everything. And then you wonder why, you're not in the place that you want to be at.
Well, you end up being a people pleaser, and sheep are people pleasers. So I call it, Aaron, and you'll appreciate, is playing offense. Most of the men that I work with are guys that play defense, and they play not to lose. And I can't stand it, and I fix it right away. So as an example, if you have a to-do list of 15 things every day, you're playing defense and you're playing not to lose, and I'm going to crush you. I have a to-do list every day of my 3 or 4 principles, and I'm not consistent. I'm violently consistent. Like I've shot over 1,000 daily videos, whether I'm living in Naples, whether I'm in Canada, whether I'm happy, whether I'm sad, whether I'm ill, whether I'm traveling, violent consistency. But the way I'm violently consistent is I only have 2 or 3 things that I'm good enough to do every day. So I have a list of things where I call it stacking the W's, stacking the wins. And I do those things, those 3, 4, 5 things every day, day after day. And then I call it playing offense. The opposite side of that is the person who's got a Frankenstein life. They open up their eyes in the morning and they check their phone and they lose control of their day within 10 minutes. Well, there's never been a phone in my bedroom. There's never been a pad. There's never been a screen. I don't even carry a cell phone. So if you're going to live life and do business on your own terms, you have to live the life. I don't take phone calls. I make phone calls. And if you're going to be a personal sovereignty type of person, exactly what you said. Warren Buffett, that's Warren Buffett 101. The reason that he's one of the most successful investors, but also he loves what he does into almost to 100 years old, is because he says no to everything. He says no to everything. That's my vitamin N example right there. This guy is like, no. And my dad, we're out in the middle of the lake on the boat, and my dad's like, he said, son, when it comes to saying no to everything, he says, all you have to do is remind yourself that if you do say yes to something, you're automatically saying no to something that means something to you. So if you take that opportunity to go golfing or invest in that, whatever it is, he says, are you not going to drive your daughter to school? Are you going to stop dating your wife, Krista? Are you going to miss a day at the gym? Are you not going to go on the podcast with Aaron? Because when you say yes, you're saying no. So it's all about dialing it back constantly to the 3 or 4 things that we're good at, and focusing on those things and being violently consistent with those.
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. There's always going to be the sacrifices, right? And we have to accept the price of those things. I mean, you talk about that all the time with athletes. Like I coach 16-year-olds right now, Michael, for baseball. And they always talk about how they want to be like these players in Major League Baseball, right? And then I ask them a simple question. Are you willing to sacrifice the same amount of things that Bryce Harper or Juan Soto or Aaron Judge sacrificed to be in his position? So would you rather go to homecoming or go to baseball practice? Would you rather go out to eat with your friends or have a healthy meal at home? It's okay either or, but don't say you want something if you're not willing to pay that price. And I think, especially with younger people, they don't see that in the distance. They want something, but they're not willing to accept or pay that price. And I think sports, even we're talking about sports, obviously, are a great indicator and an analogy for life, as you know, when you were, coaching professional hockey and being around some of the most mentally tough individuals you will find. Never played hockey, wasn't my bag, but I understand what it takes to be at that sort of level.
These guys, well, it's a war of attrition, mental toughness. I mean, it's on and off the ice, on and off the field. But it's interesting you said about the with young athletes, because that's a prime example that I've paired it for years with young athletes. But it's like the guy, Aaron, that comes to you because you're an entrepreneur, I'm an investor, and they say, Michael, would you like to invest in this business, or would you like to invest in this sports team and stuff? And I always stop this person. I always say, well, how many books have you read on, starting a restaurant, or how many books have you read on real estate, or how many books have you read about becoming a baseball player? And, inevitably the answer is always zero. There'll be the 1%er who's like, well, I've read Aaron Judge's book, or I've read Tom Brady's book. So that's the defining quality right there. There's a reason people are top 1%ers. And it's understanding that literally you need to be violently consistent for decades to get there. But it's so interesting because these fake gurus who never won anything and they're not winning, I get a laugh out of these guys, because some of them say it's a sprint and then some of them say that it's a marathon. And I'm like, which is it? What way is it, a marathon or is it a sprint? I said, in my experience in being a championship level coach, it's both. Every day is a fucking sprint, and it's a sprint till the day you die. And, I think that the more truthful you can be with young people about what it really takes to be number one, I think the more clear is kind, and unclear is unkind.
What other qualities do you think great coaches possess?
Well, I've had the privilege of playing with some outstanding coaches, and to me, the greatest coaches that I ever played for as an athlete were the guys that absolutely had the highest standards. So I don't care if it's a Bill Parcells back in the day taking over one of these sad sack NFL teams. As soon as Parcells walks into the facility, you realize that you're in the business of winning. The receptionist knows it. The athletic department knows it. The person who makes your omelet in the morning knows it. All the players know it. And like Jimmy Johnson, when he won 2 Super Bowl championships with the Cowboys, had never been any good since. He walked into there, took a 1-15 team to the Super Bowl 3 years later. And I know a guy that knows Jimmy very well. And they were speaking one time, and he said, Jimmy, he said, how did you really do it in Dallas? How did you take that team from the outhouse to the penthouse? And Jimmy, off the record, said to him, he goes, simple. It took me 3 years to get rid of all the losers. And that's what he did in Dallas. He got rid of all the people that weren't, that he and I agree with this. He said he got rid of all the people that could live with losing. And I learned that from the great Mike Keenan, the most notorious hockey coach probably in history. And he said to me, he said, Michael, I don't care if you're in business or you're a father or you're a hockey coach. He says, get rid of all the people in your life that aren't sick to their stomach when they lose. Never forgot that. And I filled my locker rooms with young athletes that were sick to their stomach when we lost. They were sick to their stomach when they didn't do well on an exam. They were sick to their stomach when they didn't bring championship effort. But winning is a sport, and you just have to surround yourself with people that are sick to their stomach when they come up short. But I those great coaches who had those levels and nothing and below that was unacceptable, because whatever we demand, we get more of that. So if you don't demand excellence, you'll get more of that.
Yeah. The standard, I think just the word standard is important to think about, right? Because a lot of young people or young coaches say they have expectations. Well, expectations sometimes aren't met. And so if you just say, this is the standard, no matter what, this is what we do, and you have to be here or above, I think that's important. And that's why I talk about with my team. This is the standard for our team. And maybe you have some rules on top of that. I know you have some rules as well that you like to live your life by that are important. And I think those match along with a set of standards that are appropriate for the team. And I think also what's important is that the coach has to relay those things, or else nobody knows. Like, the players and the coaches can't read each other's minds. And if the coach, who's the leader, is not representing those standards as a role model, then especially young people will be like, well, my coach isn't following the standard, so I won't do that either. And so I think that's also an important quality that a coach needs to possess, and a husband and a leader, whatever domain you're in, that they have to model those standards that they deem to be the most important thing.
And everybody in your world, if you're a leader, there's two versions of all of us. There's two versions of you. There's two versions of me. High frequency versus low frequency. Every man is high frequency version, and everybody has a low version. So when I'm getting in an argument with my wife at the kitchen counter at 7 a.m, or I'm arguing with my daughter, or I'm nitpicking at her, or I'm doing a lousy job, at the gym, I just have to check my frequency. I got lousy frequency. And when I'm at my best, when my wife and I are connected, I'm being a good leader, I'm doing a good job on a podcast, I check my frequency, and it's because I'm high frequency. That shit runs through a room. When my dad walks into a room, even at 91, he owns the room. He doesn't own the room because he's physically imposing, but he is. He owns the room because of the vibration he gives off. Everybody's like, wow, that guy is a man on a mission. The word is mission. And then when you have, somebody, a gamma male or a beta male, who is not a man on a mission, people feel that as well. So I'm always checking my frequency, my energy. I don't care if I'm walking in the kitchen, or I'm walking in the locker room, or I'm jumping on a podcast here. This stuff is contagious, and I want to be high frequency. And one of the reasons I just had one of my best years ever is I finally embrace this stuff. I used to think, woo, I'm going to work it out. And I'm like, no, I want the highest frequency vibration. So I focused on really, measuring myself and checking myself. When I walk into the coffee shop, I walk into Dunkin' Donuts every morning. I check my frequency now, because I want to leave that place a little bit better than I found it. People in there working, they might be having a down day. And I never used to care about that stuff, but I'm like trying to make an impact with everybody that I'm talking to in a day. So for me, all those great coaches I played for, they all had that high frequency impact, and people, Aaron, as you know, could feel it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can easily remember the great and the bad coaches, and both powerful in their own separate ways. And so, yeah, very interesting. Let's switch a little bit to talking about making money. What do you think people are getting wrong? Maybe specifically entrepreneurs are getting wrong about making money in today's day and age.
They chase money. I used to chase money when I was poor. I used to chase money when I was broke. And then I said, no more chasing money. I'm going to chase my mission. So I had to ask myself for weeks on end, what's my mission? And a man without a mission is a man without balls, by the way. Okay? Same thing for a woman. It's mental balls. If you don't have a mission, you don't have any balls. And I can feel it. You're going to be a low frequency person. So when an entrepreneur comes to me, Aaron, they're like, I'm not doing well. I'm fatigued. I'm stuck. Whatever it is. I'm like, what's the mission? And they have no clue, right? I'm like, tell me, what's your calling? They have no clue. I go, what's your purpose? And then they'll pull out the cupcake. Well, I'm passionate about this. And I'm like, I don't give a shit what you're passionate about. You're not obsessed about something. It ain't going to happen. My 11-year-old daughter is one of the top 11-year-old hockey players in the nation. She doesn't play hockey anymore because I asked her last year, do you love this? Well, I like it. We're done. And now she's into a sport that she's obsessed with. When you were in wrestling, you were obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with business. So if you're not obsessed, but it goes back to that mission. So every day, a man has to ask himself, what's my mission? And what's something that's bigger than you? When I was broke and I was trying to make money, it was all about me. Me. Victim, 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 victim. Now that I've made millions of dollars, for the last 20 years, it's been about who can I serve? Whose problem can I solve? Who can I impact this day? How can I put high frequency energy out into the world? So I was a broke taker and now I'm a rich giver. And there's only those two types of people in the world. There's takers and there's givers. So if a person's not doing well financially, you have to say to yourself, get rid of the scarcity mindset and start transforming over to the abundance mindset and ask yourself, what's my mission? And a good test of the mission is, what the hell gets you up early and keeps you up late? What the hell gives you chills? Like I'm talking about this right now, mission, and the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. That's what mission does. When I go to a barbecue or I went to watch you at ball practice, it would only be 30 seconds till you and I are both talking about our mission. But most men or entrepreneurs, they don't have a mission. They don't have something that's a calling that's bigger than themselves. So for me right now, my mission, you'll have several missions through your life. My mission right now is to impact 1 million men. I had a mission when I was in the insurance business to be the #1 agent in the world. You're coaching kids in ball. You have a mission to win a championship, but you got to have a mission. And when I meet a man on a mission, it's the difference between high frequency and low frequency.
Yeah, you could just, you could just tell there's just like something that connects them. Like, we are not close to each other, like in state wise, but I can feel you through this screen. And the reason you're fired up is because I'm fired up and we're both talking about how we can live through our mission. And sometimes I think in life, it potentially takes pain or suffering for ultimately to someone to find that mission. And that sucks. That was for me. I was living out my dream as a professional wrestler and all these sorts of things, which was my mission at the time. But then something catastrophic happened, which sort of tweaked my life and pivoted me in the direction that I'm going into. But I don't think we have to wait for that. Like, if you actually sit down and think about it, I know you've talked about this in some of your videos, like sit alone for 20 minutes every day and just ask yourself the question, what's my mission? What's my mission? Eventually, things will come up, but you never give yourself enough time to just sit and think because you're distracted, your attention's averted, you're doing this, you're doing that, and you think all of a sudden your mission is just going to fall into your fucking lap and everything's going to be great. That's just not how it works. You got to go out and do something.
And it drives me crazy because I think it's the ultimate ungratefulness. I tell my guys when they first meet me, I'm like, stop being so fucking ungrateful. I said, are you kidding me? You live in the greatest time in history. You've got the internet, you got artificial intelligence, you got trillions of dollars at your feet every day. Stop being so ungrateful. You know what's ungrateful to me is you're blessed with health and you don't go to the gym. You're blessed with a beautiful morning and you don't walk. And you lie to yourself every day. You lie to the guy in the glass. And instead, you need to sit quietly and you need to ask yourself for a few days in a row, simple pen and paper, what's my purpose? And it might not come to you in the first couple of days. But I've been able to discover my missions, and I've had multiple missions through my life. A mission might be a year. It might be 10 years. Who knows? But you got to ask yourself that question. But you have to stop scrolling your life away. Like I saw an Apple thing the other day where now North American adults are now scrolling more than 8 hours, Aaron, a day. This is just the dumb phone. This isn't pads. This isn't their laptop. This isn't their TV. 8 hours a day on their iPhone watching other people live. If that's not the most ungrateful thing, if you're a spiritual person, I don't know what is. But I tell these guys, I'm like, don't use the excuse you don't have time. You have lots of time. You have no focus. But watching other people live their life instead of your own mission. And the thing is, once a mission comes to you, you make yourself magnetic to money. You make yourself magnetic to success. You make yourself magnetic to other people. Like me being on a mission and you being on a mission has brought us onto a podcast. So A man on a mission is magnetic to more men on a mission. And it's like my dad always says, he's like, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. And he wins every ticket draw and everything falls into place. And then he ends it by saying, well, of course, I'm the luckiest man in the world. So language and all that stuff matters. But that's the very first thing that I see lacking in most people today. If you're a father, you need to be a man on a mission. Your son or daughter need to wake up and see a king. What's the great saying in our old locker room? When the king doesn't rise, the kingdom dies. Well, there's a lot of kingdoms dying because there's a lot of husbands, fathers, coaches, leaders, teachers who aren't men on a mission. What is it that gives you goosebumps? What is it that you cannot not do and find a way to do that?
Mm. Your dad and I are like-minded spirits. I say almost every day that I'm the luckiest man in the world. And I feel that way, like why not? My parents are healthy. I have a wife, a house, great health, and I get to just do cool shit all the time that fires me up. So why not have it that way? Of course, bad stuff happens all the time. Bad stuff has happened in your life. Bad stuff has happened in your dad's life, my life, everyone's life. That's inevitable. But the way we perceive those types of things are important. And ultimately, they make us, into the person that we are. And I think that's important also nowadays when everyone wants to blame something or someone else for what's happening potentially in their own life. But they do have a sense of agency and autonomy to grow their personal sovereignty, as you say. And we have to empower those people and fire them up some sort of way or motivate them or get them going in the right direction, whatever the case may be.
Well, you're the poster boy for a man on a mission because of the worst thing that could happen to a person, losing a sibling. And it's like I shot a video. I watched Jocko, the Navy SEAL, live a couple of years ago. I took my daughter to the seminar. It was the one presentation I wanted her to see. And Jocko just talked about his leadership in the Navy SEALs and his answer to every single challenge, every adversity, every disaster was good. Mm-hmm. Good. And he's like, we're overmatched. Good. We're out of ammunition. Good. We're in deep, deep trouble. Good. Whatever it was, we're down 3 men. Good. And that's the power of language. And after what you went through, it's so easy for that just to be the worst thing that ever happened to you. But instead, you're like, okay, how can I use this, my heartache and my pain, how can I use that as fuel to serve other people? Because I'm pretty sure your sister would prefer to have you doing what you're doing now. My brother's on a mission, as opposed to, oh, he's missing me. So I never, ever understood this. Like, I use chips on my shoulder as fuel. Michael Jordan used chips on his shoulder as fuel. We need to use loss as fuel. We need to disappointment as fuel. I had a guy tell me, you'll never coach the NHL. That was fuel. I had a guy tell me to my face, he said, you'll bankrupt your dad's insurance company. I use that as fuel. Tom Brady uses that stuff as fuel. So, I mean, you're a perfect example of it is the worst thing that can happen to you, but now that's going to be my mission so that I can make sure that that's my sister's memory and I can help other people that were in her situation. So maybe you can save some other lives. And now in your sister's memory, the fact of the matter is you are saving lives.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate that, man. And I've got a buddy who has sort of a play on of Jocko's good, and he just said his brand is not dead yet. Like, you're not dead yet, man. Like, so yeah, this thing happened, but literally you're not dead yet. You have breath in your lungs. Hopefully your legs and arms still work, but even if they don't, you still got breath in your lungs. Like, something's working because you are not dead yet, and you could do something about it. And I think that ultimately that fires me up. But I mean, I think it has a lot to sort of my resilience, and you as well probably, comes from just my sports background. Just like being in the trenches over and over and over again, not getting the spot on the team, told you're not good enough. Hey, you're not going to play in today's game, Aaron, because you haven't done this. Okay, well, what do I got to do? My mom always said, you just got to get better every day. If you want to be on the team, you got to get better. because she wasn't a person who was going to go to the coach and politic for me to play. She was like, Aaron, if you want a spot on the team, you just earn it. You earn it every single freaking time you're out there. And that is important. And I think a lot of what's happening in our society is because we're not putting a strong emphasis on youth sports. Like most kids, the stats say, are quitting by the age of 12. That's so young. They have so much more to learn and gain. And I'm not saying everything has to be about competitive and being the best in the world, but it's about being out there and doing something and proving to yourself that you're capable. And then where can that be applied in school, in something you're passionate about, in something else, and all of these sorts of things. And that's important. That's really important because we're seeing a lot of things in our society that are not good, that need to be fixed and changed and all of that sort of stuff.
Well, you're seeing the consequences, the delayed consequences of the eighth place trophy culture. And by the way, I believe that stuff's coming to an end. Snowflake parents raising cupcake kids. I live it, okay? And you have no idea what's coming because I coach as young as 4 years old in my hockey power skating. These are the COVID kids, right? And I've never seen anything like it because, I mean, these kids that are coming, and I have them aged 4 to 10. And the difference in these kids that grew up during those 2 to 3 years of the pandemic, it's unbelievable how easily they quit. So what's the one thing that sport can give these kids? It can give them something they can't get in school. They're not going to get from mom, and they're not going to get because dad's not on the scene, and that's grit. So I do everything like you do with your older athletes to give them a little bit of stick-to-itness. But most of these kids, they want to quit when they're in 10 minutes in, which isn't absolute. It's not that's pretty normal. What's not normal, Aaron, is the cupcake parents now are allowing them to quit. My daughter starts a martial arts class in December as an example. 2 months later, half the class isn't showing up. And I'm like, honey, where's the kids? Where are all the kids? Oh, they all quit. I start a hockey camp for low income families in September. By Christmas, I had 50 kids. By Christmas, I got 25 kids on the ice. These are low income kids. I'm sponsoring it. Oh, it was hard. They quit. My daughter goes to a private school here in Canada. They have a classroom of 20 kids a day. There's not one day this year so far where they've had 20 kids in the class. And I always ask my daughter, because she has perfect attendance, I'm like, how many kids today? And she's like, oh, we had 12 today. Like, it's become normal to not show up consistently, and it's become normal to quit. But the flip side of that, something I'd like to comment on about how it leans into why it's the greatest time in history. And I mean, I tell my kid this every day. Like, there's no competition. You know that. You'll raise kids, you and your wife. They're not going to have any competition because there is no competition.
Yeah, I mean, I see a ton of entrepreneurs online who say it's never been easier to get ahead. Like, you have to do the bare minimum to get ahead, and that's so interesting. You think that's true in the entrepreneurial space, that like right now it's never been easier?
In business, it's never been simpler. I hate the word easier, but I mean, I tried to buy $140,000 Escalade the other day, and I said fuck it, and I put the money back in my pocket. I tried to buy a $2 million home 2 months ago. I said fuck it, I put the money back in my pocket. I can't spend money in this world. It's so pathetic. So for a guy like you or a guy like me, do you really have any competition? No, you don't. And I tell my kid every day, I'm like, you're going to run over people. So my job as a father is to raise a lion, or a lioness. So she's a girl, so I'm raising a lioness, and and I'm like, you're going to run over people. And I always remind her, like, with it not being in an arrogant way, but I'm like, these people aren't your peers, honey. These are not your peers. These people will work for you if they do it all. And because sometimes your kids will say to you, you know, well, they're doing this, or the sleepover, or she's getting a cell phone. And I'm like, it's irrelevant because these people are not your peers.
Yeah.
That's how Richard Williams used to talk to Serena and Venus, and that worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Do you have any other father tips? I just said I might become a father soon. Any wisdom? Any wisdom you could
Yeah.
bestow on me, Michael?
My younger brother is the best father I've ever seen besides my own. And he got married young and he has three kids and they're empty nesters now. And I mean, talk about student athletes, the best in the country, but great kids, great kids. So I'm at my stag in Toronto and we're going to go to the Raptors game. And we're hung over and we're lying in bed the second morning and I roll over in bed and I say to my brother who's in the other bed and I said, you know, Krista and I are going to have kids as soon as we can. I said, is there any advice? My brother's name is David. And he said, yeah, actually I do. And he's a pretty quiet guy. He says two words. And I've said two words. And he said, yeah, be there. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. I wrote it down. Two words to being a father, be there. I have never seen a guy more be there for his kids with three kids. This guy will commute 10 hours to watch them play. He'll drive 5 hours to visit them at college. He'll rent the ice. He'll rent the ballpark. Be there. He said, you're going to make all kinds of mistakes and you're going to not be sure sometimes. But he said, when it comes to you and your wife, be there. And the other thing he said is he goes, and this is a big one. He says, the best thing you can ever do for your kids is love your wife. And that's it. And that's what my dad said to me at our wedding in Dominican Republic, because some of my fucko college friends were there and pro athlete friends. And I was, hanging out with those guys. And he said, my dad says to me by the pool the day before our wedding, he says, oh, it's going to be hard for you to say goodbye to those guys. And I said, what do you mean say goodbye to those guys? He says, well, those guys are no longer your BFF. He points to my soon-to-be wife and he said, that is your ride or die partner from now on. My parents have been married for 70 years. He goes, all those guys, swift sword. Swift sword. You can see him from time to time. You can go golfing from time to time, but that's your ride or die partner. And he goes, by the way, that's your secret weapon. She'll help you build your company. She'll help you build your home. She'll help you build your family. And he goes, what do I call your mom? I said, the COO. He goes, exactly. He goes, I'm the CEO of our family, the money maker, the rainmaker. What's your mom? She's the chief operating officer. She makes sure the trains run on time. So that's how it was in our family. My dad was the CEO and my mom was the proud COO, and they were joined at the hip. And but the big advice I got was from my younger brother: be there. Why do you think I sold my hockey team? I sold my hockey team and my business because I promised my wife and daughter that when my daughter turned 6, I would be her coach. So I coached up until then. When it was time for me to be her coach in all these sports, I sold my team and I've been coaching her ever since. Be there.
Yeah, that's beautiful advice. Because one of the
By the way, Aaron,
yeah,
you'll be the only dad doing it. Okay, so get used to it. You'll be the only dad that drops her off. You'll be the only dad that picks her up. You'll be the only dad that wants anything to do with your kids, and it's like a badge of honor.
yeah, I mean, the one of the tricky things about coaching sports is that you don't have your own personal sovereignty because you are at the mercy of your players and scheduling and games and things of that nature. So I always knew that it wasn't going to be what I was going to do the rest of my life. I just really love being around young men. Like it fires me up because I want to see them blossom into something great. I'm sure I'll have much more love for my children than I do the players that I coach, but it's a similar type of feeling. Like you're proud to see them like develop into like, oh, wow, you're like an acceptable, respectable young person who I'm proud to put into the world. And that's why I feel like I want to work 12, 10, 15-hour days right now. So the foundation is built when I have my kids and I can go drop them off at 8, I can pick them up at 3. And in that window, they just probably think that dad doesn't even have a job. What does he do all day? He does nothing. He picks me up at 3. He drops me off at 8. What does he do? And then he's present with me and like, but I just mix in that time because that's how I've created my life. And or that's how I want to create my life. That's the goal. That's the mission right now. And so it's profound, you know. But I always found it challenging to think about how to balance this high performance lifestyle with being a present father and husband. And I know you talk about that a lot. So, anything on that as well?
Well, I worked like an animal, exactly like you did, when all I had was time. So I would go back to work after dinner. I wasn't married. As soon as I got married, I started to taper that stuff in. And now I work anywhere from an hour to 5 hours, but I have a hard deadline every day of 4 o'clock because I go and pick up my daughter, and I work from home. But I did all the heavy lifting in my 20s and my 30s so that I had this plan of personal sovereignty. And I'm just so productive now at home. I'm like, okay, I have a hard finish line of 4. So I win the mornings. I have no distraction in the morning. I conquer the chaos in the afternoon, return some calls, return some emails, and then I build my legacy after 5 p.m., which is family. So I just, I mean, once you're coaching your own kids, it's just, I mean, it's next level. And they will look at you a little bit differently too, with even more respect when you become their coach. Because, my daughter and I have a great relationship, and I'll never forget the first time I started coaching her in hockey. It's almost a thing where that's my dad. And with little girls, your impact on them is the most powerful force in the world, because she will measure all men in the future how she should be treated through you. And if you have boys, they will measure themselves as men through you. So I think what you're doing is amazing, because I did exactly that. I didn't have kids, so I served other kids. And then the second my kids were old enough to coach, I went all in. You might keep coaching other kids until your kids are 3 or 4. I mean, there's only so much you can do with toddlers, right? I was on the ice every day, but that's it.
Yeah.
But whatever it is with your kids too, is start as soon as you can. Like I started, like Emery, my daughter, she was on skates when she was 2. She was on a golf tee. She was on a tee when she was 2. She was in a batting cage when she was 3. And then nobody can catch them, right? Nobody can catch them. And the last thing I've learned too is, I said to a guy when my daughter turned 5, and I talk to really successful parents. I don't just talk to parents. I said, how do you know when to stop doing something for your son or daughter? Which is a really good question. And he said, when they can fucking well do it. I'll never forget that. My kid started carrying her baseball bag, her hockey bag. She started wiping down the table. She started doing the dishes with me at night. This summer, she's cutting grass. She's got 2 little businesses. She has a dog walking business. She has a podcast. But those words, he said, when should we tell our kids to do when they can fucking well do it? He said, if she's 5 or 10 or 15, the second they can do it, you insist they do it. And that's self-reliance, right?
Mm.
Here's my 4-year-old dragging the bag into the ballpark, and every other parent's cupcaking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me it's so funny because you're a hard coach and I'm a hard coach, but there'll be a soft part of you as a father like me. And I catch myself all the time, and I'm like, get your own glass of water. That kind of stuff. Like I used to be, I'll get it for you. So you won't be the same coach as you will be the same father. But don't not give them the grit they need.
Yeah.
And my kid's got alligator skin. Like all her friends are like cupcakes, right? They have no chance in life. But my kid, you can't offend her. You can't upset her. Like she's heard it all, and she knows what winning's about. So that's another thing. Give your kid grit and give them alligator skin. I don't go swearing at her or something like that, but she knows what it takes to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the amount of dads I see cleaning up their son's bag and carrying it to their car for them at the age of 15 makes me want to vomit. And it's like, dude, just grab your own shit. Like, put it in your bag, grab your own shit, grab your bag, take it back to the car, take it out of the car, put your jersey in the car. Like, take care of your stuff. Like, I get when they're, 7, 8, 9, there's a little bit more to it. Like, yeah, there's a lot going on. We just want to make sure they get to the field and all of that. But once you turn into someone who's like, knows what they're doing, and you know what jersey you need, what glove you need, what things you need, you have to take care of your own shit. My dad used to say that all the time. He still does. Aaron, take care of your own shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, you're right, Dad. I need to. There's responsibility built in there, and they're also showing them that they're capable and they can have responsibility. And we know with men, the more responsibility we take on, the better we feel about ourselves. And because we feel we're purposeful, we have something to do, we're useful. I mean, that's what we need to feel, is useful. I mean, that's so powerful for our mental health and just for our overall being, and that the people in our life see that we're useful and they appreciate that. And that's just an amazing for the dynamic of a relationship and the psyche of a man, just to feel useful and to feel appreciated by that. And we can teach them that at a very young age.
Well, you nailed it. People, these gurus, these pretend experts, they talk about building self-esteem. Like, the one thing you want to build in your kid is self-esteem, right? The world's going to go after them, and they're going to have high self-esteem. Well, high self-esteem can't be built with pats on the back, and it can't be even done with winning. Self-esteem is built when a husband, a father, or a coach demands something from you at a young age that you didn't think you could do, and then you did it. That's the only way self-esteem is built. You get a higher grade on the test than you ever thought, or you hit the baseball further than you ever thought. That's the only way. This other pats on the back and affirmations, none of it works. You build self-esteem by challenging your people to do more than they could possibly think. And that's what all the great football and baseball and basketball and hockey coaches, even pro athletes, they make them do more than they thought. And then the athlete goes, wow, I accomplished that. Maybe I can accomplish even more. But that's the thing my wife, Kristen, and I are working on now for 11 years with my daughter, is build her esteem. In today's world, with all the shit that goes on and the social media and the shaming and I just want my daughter to be a lioness. I want her self-esteem to be rock solid. So I keep saying to her, FIO, figure it out. FIO, figure it out. FIO, figure it out. And she forgot one time about 6 years ago, she forgot one of her skates or something for hockey. And I'm like, you're not playing. I'm not going to go home. I'm running the practice. And she sat in the stands. So accountability is a major thing, like you commented on.
Yeah, huge. It's like, it's self-esteem is based on building credible evidence, not just like random foo-foo made up shit. It's like real evidence. Like, you did this thing. You got up early, went to the gym before school started. That's credible evidence that you're building up who you want to be and who you are. And then, yes, what you say to yourself on top of that matters, but you have to start building the credible evidence first. Then you're like, yes, I am this person. I did wake up early this morning. That's like me. Let's go. I can do it again tomorrow. And then you have this credible evidence. Then when someone tries to shoot you down or say you suck or you're not good enough, yeah, that you may hear that, but then you think to yourself, no, like, I have credible evidence that tells me otherwise. And I'm going to keep going regardless because I did this and this and this, and this is real. This is legit. I did it. Boom. Let's keep going, moving forward. That's how you actually build someone's self-esteem. Now, pats on the back and telling that you love someone and that you believe in them, all that is additive. Of course you want to, of course. Like, I look at someone like Dan Campbell in the NFL with the Detroit Lions. Like, he fucking loves his players. He cries for them. He believes in them, but he also sets a very high standard for them. There's both at the same time, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. You can't have, like, that's just how it is. That's how I think about it. And I see that in real time with him. And he's producing one of the best seasons of all time. He took over the team when they were like 0-16 or something crazy like that. And he said, trust me, believe. We're going to work fucking hard, but I love you. And we're going in the trenches together, hand in hand, linked arms. Let's make it work. And I think that equates to a lot of things that you're talking about here with what you do with your daughter and what you do within your business and all sorts of things like that. Sorry for getting fired up, Michael.
Well, I mean, he's a high frequency king, right? And they wanted his ass fired after the first season. They wanted his ass fired after the second season. And the Lions, being the sad sack franchise for years, decades, this is the first time in history they did not make that mistake. And they said, we're going to give Campbell a third year, and the rest is history. But when that guy walks into a press conference or he walks in the locker room, is he high frequency? You're damn right he is. He's also a ruthless son of a bitch. And that's the combination you just talked about. Every high performance person I've ever met or worked with or was coached by, they're all ruthless and they're absolute ass kickers. And you've been around them your whole life. And that's how you get the job done. But his passion, he's not passionate. I'm mistaken. He's obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
He's obsessed. It's like Harbaugh said the other day. He goes, people who don't love football don't love me. And he says, I don't want anybody that doesn't love football around me. And I go, attaboy, Harbaugh, give it to them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Michael, anything that we missed that you definitely want to touch on, or something that's just pressing that you definitely want to hit on?
Just some words that ring in my ears as a father. More is caught than taught. I knew that as a coach. I knew that as an entrepreneur. More is caught than taught. And when you're in doubt as an entrepreneur or a father or a brother, always remember there is nothing more contagious than your example. Mm. Will your life be a warning to your children, or will it be an example? Will your behavior be an inspiration to your wife, or will it be a reason for divorce? There is nothing more contagious than a badass example. And your kids and my kid, they get to the point where words don't become, they're going to be teenagers someday. And they don't need lectures, and they don't need speeches, and they don't need motivation from guys like us. All they need is a violently consistent example of how to live life properly. They are watching all the time. And you know this as a coach of teenagers. When you think they're not watching, they are fucking well watching. They watch what time you arrive. They watch how rested you are. They watch the way you talk to yourself. They watch your body language. They watch your breathing. They watch how much you're on your cell phone. They watch what you drink. They watch with who you talk to. They watch your facial expressions. More is caught than taught. And that's why when I walk in the house every night, I check my body language. I check my breathing. I make sure I'm high frequency. More is caught than taught. And I make sure that I'm showing up in the best possible version of myself.
Yeah, beautiful. And we're heading into 2025 very soon. And you have some ways to unfuck our lives in 30 days. Is there anything you'd like to share from that, or where do you want to gear people towards so they can check that out, or whatever the case may be?
Well, I wrote a book about 3 months ago called Unfuck Withable. I was trying to decide, what should I call my next book? And I said, why don't I just call it what I am, Unfuck Withable, living life and doing business on your own terms. And then I sat by the pool and I said, what would be the 5 things I would suggest to a friend if I was having a cup of coffee or a beer? And I wrote this book. It's only 22 pages. It's called Unfuck Withable, 5 ways to unfuck your life in the next 30 days. Not a year, 30 days. And it's free to your audience at brassballssecrets.com. That's brassballssecrets.com. All you do is put in your email, and you can download a book. It's 22 pages. You can read it in 25 minutes. But I got rid of all the fluff and the theory and the filler and all that shit, and I just sat down and wrote it. And it's like I would write to one of my players or write to my daughter when she was older. And also, I shoot a video every single day of my life on my morning walk. I haven't missed in 1,000 days. Sick, happy, sad, depressed, not depressed, whatever. And when they join my email list for free, I send you that video every morning at 10 o'clock. Sometimes it's on marketing, money making. Sometimes it's on mental health. Sometimes it's on Dan Campbell. Sometimes, who knows? And again, when you download the book, you become part of my free newsletter. If you don't want that, you can unsubscribe. Same site, brassballsecrets.com. And that's my free gift to your listeners. That's the way to start a relationship, because I'm not everybody's cup of whiskey.
No, maybe not, but I enjoyed the heck out of you, Michael. And I want to end this conversation with your number one rule that's in your other book. Never follow the crowd. I think this whole conversation basically summarizes that rule because it's great. Never follow the crowd. Why is that the number one rule for you?
Well, I learned that rule from the late, great Earl Nightingale, who was the godfather of personal development. A lot of people wouldn't realize that Anthony Robbins didn't invent personal development, but he didn't. He learned it from Earl Nightingale and the boys, and Earl had one big rule for personal development, and that was look around at what everybody else is doing. If you don't have a role model, if you don't have a good environment, if you're not sure what to do, just look around at what everybody else is doing. Take a look at what is popular and never, ever, ever fucking do that. The majority, the herd, the quiet desperation are dead wrong about everything. And there's no disputing this. This is not an opinion. When it comes to wealth, the majority, the crowd is dead wrong. 1% are affluent. 1%. When it comes to health and fitness, the crowd is dead wrong. We've never been sicker. We've never been more tired. Diabetes, Alzheimer's, never ever been more wrong. When it comes to marriage, now we're planning towards 60% divorce rates. The herd has never been more wrong. What about parenting? The majority must know something about being a father, right? They know jack shit. The fucking worst generation of parents in history, my generation. So do the opposite. I can just go down the list. Podcasts, emails, marketing, my thing. You would think that the majority marketing, right? No, dead ass wrong. Never, ever, ever follow what everybody else is doing with advertising or sales. You'd be dead last. So this is my dad's life for 91 years. My dad was abandoned at birth. After 30 days in the hospital as a brand new baby, okay? He's adopted, he's put into the government shit, whatever that is, foster care, group home, whatever, and they give him to a family. Let's just say it wasn't they weren't all Einsteins by any means. And he grows up in a house with alcohol abuse, no entrepreneurship whatsoever. He quits school at age 15, and he becomes an entrepreneur from 15 to 85. And he wins our community medal for the highest achievement ever for a person in our community. And he's in the Hockey Hall of Fame as a player. Nobody could I could never fill those shoes. From abandoned at birth into a lousy home. And I used to have lunch with my dad when we were working together. And I said, Dad, how the hell did you do it? I said, you didn't have a role model. You didn't have an entrepreneur bone in your family. They were a bunch of drunks. He said, easy. He said, even when I was young, I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I sure as fuck knew I didn't want this. And he said, I looked around at my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister, my other brother, and I did the exact opposite. He said, that was my board of directors. Whatever you fuckers are doing or whatever you suggest, I'm doing the opposite. Hall of Fame career in hockey, Hall of Fame career in business, 45 years later. Never, ever, ever follow the crowd. And with that said, what do you look around and see is popular now? Digital addiction, anti-social media, entitlement, bad foods. You don't need a role model. You don't need perfect parents. You don't need a mastermind. Just look around at what everybody else is doing. And in 2025, do the exact opposite. The exact opposite of every husband, every father, every small business owner. And like Uncle Earl said, you'll probably never make another mistake in your life.
Amazing. Yes, I have called that idea reverse role models. Same thing.
I like that. I like that.
And that's basically what your dad did. I mean, that's exactly what your dad did. He saw role models. He said, "I'm going in reverse. See ya," and turned out great for him. So, well, Michael, thank you, man. Everything that everyone needs to know about you will be linked in the show notes below to grab all your stuff, YouTube channel, newsletter, all that good stuff. But thank you. Glad we connected, and I appreciate the work you're doing.
Well, it's a privilege to spend some time with a man on a mission. So congratulations and good on you for everything you're doing in your sister's memory. Man, you'll never have any problem with inspiration or motivation. If you need any help, you let me know.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.